Hi, my name is Garrett Ryan, and this is my web application development presentation for November 2021. It's on Sonic MQ and Betfair. The last time I worked was in a software firm called Orbis in Manor Street Business Park in Dublin. Their kind of theme was embracing emerging technologies. They're particularly into Corba, which was a buzzword at the time associated with Iona Technologies. Now, when I was there, I was exposed to this software called Sonic MQ to do with stacks and queues. Well, I wasn't young; I was 30. But as someone who just did 2 years computers in college, couldn't see any potential in it, or didn't make a big impression on me. I failed to finish my final year in college. I got interested in sports trading, specifically Betfair. It started out just as a hobby in the evening, betting on snooker and football while watching on the telly. Now, I'm a very slow learner in this regard, and I wasn't making a living as such as other people were, but I was, adding to my income. I'm very kind of risk averse when it comes to betting. My regret from this period in my life in terms of betting was that I don't know why I didn't bet more. When I knew the odds were in my favour, I managed to convince myself that I was actually good at something, whereas the truth of the matter was it was very, very easy to make money at this pursuit at the time. I didn't use any bespoke software in the site at the time. And in 2007, I attended a Betfair education night. The lead speaker was Australian. His name was Jason Thompson. Now, I've searched the internet for articles with Jason Thompson and Betfair, and I don't know, there's a story in the paper a couple of weeks ago about the Quins managing to get stories, the right to be forgotten, stories from Google or whatever. Anyway, I have noticed in GDPR articles that I've read before. I have a good memory for words and text, and I'd often be able to find an article by a name and a keyword in the text. I can't find anything for Jason Thompson and Betfair. It's almost like they've expunged that particular period of the business's existence. The leopard did change its spots. Now, the meeting claims that the Betfair Oracle database was the second biggest known database in the world. He was kind of implying the FBI had a bigger one or whatever. But at the time, it processed more transactions weekly than all of Europe's stock exchange combined. Now, when I was at the meeting, a lot of people there was older people than me, they were giving out about bots, but Jason kind of pointed out that a bot is really, it's only a betting strategy. Like, your strategy has to be profitable. Getting software to implement it can help you, but it's dangerous. And if you get the software wrong, it could be very expensive. But I didn't, as I say, I was never a very sophisticated user of this software. At the time, I just did it on the website. But Betfair began to encourage people to use API software, and in 2009, I began to use one by a company called Rust Software. It only cost £6 a month. It's more efficient use of the site. Now, Betfair encouraged the use, like when there wasn't much sport on the particular day. I grabbed this screenshot of the software working, but I just point out that there's 5 matches loaded. So each of them requests the odds to be updated every second. So request 5 there. If say you had 20 loaded, you're allowed to make 10 requests a second without incurring any charges. So if you have 20 markets loaded, you can use this option called throttle requests, which will limit you to just making 10 requests a second to make sure you're not getting any extra charges. But transactions there is not. That's bets, either putting a bet up, putting an offer up, or getting an offer matched. But we're just putting an offer up. That's at zero because I haven't put any bets up, but you're allowed 1,000 of them an hour, which is 16 a minute, which is well more than what any conventional bettor would ever, be using. The other thing I'd point out would be the number of markets for each individual match. Like that's not a high-profile match, Stockport and Bolton, but there's still all these markets you can bet in while the match is in play. Is there anything else there? Betfair floated in 2010, and since then, when you make a business decision, you have to inform the stock exchange. So a statement was released when they went for this Sonic MQ software that I'd come across. And I couldn't help noticing it because it seemed like nothing to me at the time, but it turns out it's worth $340 million as a company. Now, I've talked to a couple of people, and message queue is a huge, big deal in software development. I don't know if Betfair still use these people, or I believe Amazon Web Services are a big player with this type of technology. Now, in my naive thinking, you could solve this by just buying loads of powerful computers. Though there's obviously much more to it than that. It's just that's the way it would appear to me, naively. Anyway, I grabbed the odds from, there's a match on a few days ago, Ireland at home to Portugal. It ended up 0-0, so it's not really a great match to have picked. But I'll just go through what I understand. These are the pre-match odds, and I checked the odds about an hour before the match, and Portugal were 1.38. Now, they went out a fair bit in the betting before the match from this period, and the only way I can explain this will be for this particular game. They had a game with Serbia a few days later, and even if they won this game against Ireland, they still would have to avoid defeat against Serbia to progress through as group winners. They had 5 players on yellow cards, and the coach made the decision to rest 3 of these players to make sure they'd have them for the last match against Serbia, because if one of them got a yellow card in this match against Ireland, they'd be out of the last match. So that's my only, because that's quite a big movement in odds at those particular values before a match. But yeah, what I want to draw attention to is all these short prices. From 1.12 down, there's people occupying those positions for when the odds get to that particular point. These are odds for now Portugal to win the match. No, I didn't do the same thing for the Ireland odds. The Ireland odds would be different in terms of to win the match, they'd be a much higher price. But there'd still be this money occupying what I would kind of think of as the desirable positions. Because if you think about it, if Betfair, it's considered an example of an efficient market. If the market is efficient, if you get matched, or because it's a queue, if you get matched early, the chances are it's a profitable bet to have made. But if you're last in the queue, the chances are it's negative. And these are the matches on the draw. And what's of interest to me, and I haven't been on this site much in the last few years, is there's very little money interested in occupying the short odds for the draw. Though as the match goes on, and that becomes a more likely outcome, people are willing to bet. I was expecting all these positions to be occupied, and my only explanation is people must have tried and failed to trade on the draw odds, and it's just not profitable compared to when one of the teams is actually winning, because people like to back a winner and to be more interested in taking a short price. And this is how the draw odds change during the match. This is at half time, and I think it's half time anyway. I'm not sure, it might have been after half time, but the odds have come into 2.14. But now you see these people kind of making offers at particular points because of time that the price will gradually come down, and as the game goes on and the odds are getting shorter on the draw, it's kind of bigger and bigger amounts at each price. This is the odds when it's in injury time 1.16, you go back to draw. And when the match is over, well, you can see that all of these short prices, there's been money matched at every single one of those prices. There's happy buyers and happy sellers. So it's the messaging software that enables this to work in terms of getting on the queue. Now, I had a happy period where I was able to make a decent income from this site, and my strategy was to wait for a match where teams went 2 goals up, and I was able to occupy these short price positions first because no one else knew about it, or no people that were interested were betting on other things. But I was betting away one day and I realised there was somebody straight in front of me in the queue that that knew my strategy basically, and I should have stopped that day, but I ended up persevering with it for a couple of years, and it nearly pulling my hair out with frustration, because when I was doing it, it was a very, very enjoyable way to spend your time. I'm grateful for the opportunity to make this presentation, as it's nice to be able to get some kind of payback for experiences you might have had. Okay, thank you.